We look for companies that have that potential for growth and expansion into the government markets. Any business model can transition to the government unless somebody's just completely running their business so just bad, but then you wouldn't buy it anyway.
When you buy these companies and you talk about the 10%, the government look at financial historics, or is that more for you?
That's more for us. Because of how I created the operating company and the whole management structure, with me strategically buying with certain areas, certain work lines, is making it better for me, because what I'm working on now, my next thing is going to maximize my bond potential. Maximizing my bonding ability is going to allow me to bid massive government contracts. So now I'm able to bid those 12-year, $2 billion construction contracts once I get my bonding up. If I was to try to build my bonding from the ground up on my own, it would take me probably 10, 15 years to be able to have a $100 million single limit. But now if I combine 10 different companies, could put all of those financials together, decrease all of their operational expenses, so I consolidate into one C-suite. Now that 10% EBITDA is 30% EBITDA of all of the entities, because I got rid of all that. But now that free cash flow, when it goes into bonding, now it's like, whoa, you got, you're doing $30 million a year at a 25% EBITDA. Okay, we're gonna give you 10 times your EBITDA for bonding. Boom, that's a $70 million bond line right there.
This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it. Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase. Welcome to another episode of Pain Points, where real pain equals real growth. Today, we're privileged to have my boy, Kevin Jennings, who we've just gelled from day one. And so thank you for taking the time.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I think, I don't even know where to begin. I feel like we've already began. So first and foremost, just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you kind of currently do in the space, especially around the government stuff that you're doing now.
Yeah, so Kevin Jennings from Miami, Florida. I've been in the construction industry for, this year makes 23 years.
24th is the hardest I heard.
Yeah, hopefully it's not. So 23 doing construction, started out doing residential remodels, and then got into residential development. And then when the market crashed in 07, 08, that's when I started to make the transition into the government work, because I couldn't do residential anymore because the market didn't exist for residential construction. Then I got into the government sector and really just started to learn it. And what got me into government work was I wanted to do something where I never had to go through that recession again. I never wanted to feel that feeling of 2007, 2008 ever again. So I started to think, like, what could I do? And so that's what led me to government contracting.
Right.
So then started doing work with the government, started doing minor construction projects, and then it morphed from there into all different types of stuff. Got into underground utility construction in 2014. And then through underground utility construction, that's what gave me the ability to exit a company. So I exited my underground utility company in 2018. And that was pretty dope for me to really go through that whole experience.
Right.
Because
the LOI, the whole thing, the forensics, everything.
And the crazy thing, I'm a regular kid from, Miami Gardens. Like, so I don't know nobody that's ever done an exit. I didn't even know what selling a company was, that it was possible. So it was a cool thing. I loved it. And then worked for the private equity firm that bought me for 2 years. So that was also a great experience because I learned probably a little bit too much.
Yeah. Also learned a better buyout clause.
Yeah.
So a 1 year exit versus a 2.
I learned a little too much through that process. And then in 2023, I started GC Advising and the Government Cheese, which is an educational platform that teaches small business owners how to leverage their skill sets to the government.
Right.
Start doing that. And then, bring us up to now, 2024, I created a management company to start doing acquisitions. And in 2025, I started purchasing small and medium-sized government contracting businesses. So that's what I'm on now. Is the bulk of my focus throughout my work week is in acquiring new companies, bringing them into our portfolio, running them through our management company with our proven SOPs and everything. And then we're going to hopefully do an exit, and, Lord willing, it'll be better this time around than the first time around, right? Because I know a little bit more now.
Right.
And that's me. And then at the same time, I'm still, coaching and consulting and helping other small business owners try to do the same thing for themselves.
I love that. I love that about you, actually. I think that's why we gel, for free and for fun. What I loved about you day one, and I love this philosophy of a scarcity mindset. And one of the things I love about your energy is that you don't have that scarcity mindset. You know what I mean? It's different from people like, what's in it for me, when you're like, hey, if I'll remove the olive branches. If it makes sense, it makes sense. But if not, then you don't really waste your time, but you're also very, very forthright with your intentions. I do have a question before we get into some of the stuff you're doing now and maybe some of the advice you give. But you brought up 2007, 2008. And my dad taught me this a long time ago, that every time there's calamity or a downfall, that's when the biggest shift to wealth happens. And that and COVID were some of the two biggest shifts of wealth in the American economy has ever seen. I kind of feel like, even though the stock market's good, kind of what I'm seeing from small business owners or a lot of businesses, people struggling. And do you see any parallels now, like from like the 2008, 2007, 2008, 2009 with the economy now? Or do you feel like the economy is stronger with, or are you kind of blind to that because you're doing so much government work that you're not seeing, kind of protected from that kind of downfall?
Yeah, so I was blind to it for a while because of my government. When I started getting into the acquisitions, now I'm seeing it more. And then also I see it a lot from the consulting side, because I'm working with these founders and they're all getting to this point. And it's crazy, the influx of people right now that are at that point where they have to exit their business or else.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that more and more. Like, I didn't come into this trying to be a distressed, asset buyer.
Right.
But it's like I'm seeing so many distressed businesses. And so now I am starting to see it more. And I think that we are on the cusp of another major financial shift, very similar to 2007, very similar to COVID. I think this time the baby boomers are really going to spur that, because from what I'm seeing with the number of businesses that are for sale and the number of qualified buyers that are actually out there, there's a lot of businesses that are going to close in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
So you're going to have a massive amount of workforce that has nowhere to go. And then with a lot of jobs and, AI taking precedence in a lot of different industries, there's going to be a lot of people that they ain't going to have nowhere to go.
Right.
And I think the economy is going to really feel it.
Yeah.
And I could see that already happening.
So when you see these businesses in distress, I'm kind of curious from what you're seeing, because I do a lot of mentoring. And I see some of the parallels across some of the holes in a lot of the companies that I talk to. What are some of the biggest reasons do you feel like companies are struggling? Is it just kind of the inability to scale? Is it the inability to change? Is it marketing? Can you kind of talk me through some of the pain points that you're seeing with small business now?
So a lot of it is based around that one keyword you said, just strictly inability. And a lot of the businesses we're seeing, even though they're not boomers, so the boomers are struggling. The boomers are struggling because they don't know how to market in this environment. They don't understand social media. They don't understand social media marketing. They're still used to sending out flyers and the little flyer paper that you would get. And they don't understand that people don't really check the mail no more. That's why email exists. Everybody's clicking the digital option.
Right.
So the boomers are struggling with that. I see them struggling with systems because they don't have proper systems in place. It's kind of like, hey, this is how I always ran the business. This is what we did.
Right.
But then I'm also seeing that other generation that's kind of not quite boomers, but maybe just a little bit older than us, guys that are maybe early 50s, mid 50s. So they're kind of still in the game. They struggle just because they can't adapt.
Yeah. Because
it's a young man's sport and they can't adapt to it. So those are the struggles I'm seeing with them. But it all goes back to inability to adapt. They're just not able to adapt in this environment.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of pain points on that one. You brought out marketing. You talked about the target audiences, how the shift is focused from marketing methods. You talked about processes where they don't have systems. If you were going to say out of those three, which one would you, if you were going to, you don't have to, maybe there's a multiple answers to this. Which one would you prioritize first and why?
Systems.
Yeah, same.
Systems 100%, because if they can dial in their systems and processes, everything else you can kind of figure out. But a lot of them, they have literally no process for anything.
Right.
So they can't extract it out of their head to put it somewhere to create. They just don't have anything.
Agreed.
And the problem is like they're trying to hire a workforce that thrives on systems.
Yeah. People need to know where they stand. People like to know, hey, this is the scope of my work.
Especially now, you got to think when a founder is bringing people on in their business and they're bringing people on that are under 35, those people grew up in a society with Facebook, with LinkedIn. So like they're used to going to the internet to figure things out and process for everything. And then they come into your business and you're like, this is just how we do it.
Yeah.
Their employee retention now becomes a problem, which then it's a snowball effect around systems.
Right. Or I always find the second piece of it, people say they always want an assistant. And its problem is when you hire an assistant, it's like if you hire a bookkeeper, if you hire ops, if you hire anything else, you're training all those people. Right. What they really need is, that's like you said, SOPs and process. What they really need is someone that's going to create those processes and systems for them, especially if they're a sales guy. Right, because they don't have it in place.
They don't have it in place, and that's why I say that over like the marketing piece is big as well.
But if you have no systems,
it don't make sense. You see what I'm saying? And that's why I try to tell people, I'm like, they're like, oh, we got to get more sales. More sales ain't your problem.
Yeah. Because
if you go hire somebody to drive more leads to you, and you have no way to process those leads, you just wasting money. Your marketing guy's happy, but outside of that, they're getting paid. But outside of that, like, what are you doing? And so systems, hands down.
Right. Because like I said, even if I got a lead comes in, who nourishes that lead? What's the follow-up on that lead? What's the cadences?
You would be, and I mean, you wouldn't be surprised, but like most people would be surprised, like how some of these businesses operate with absolutely zero systems in place.
So the good thing that what you do then, what I love about your concept is you have these systems in place. So when you acquire companies, if they're under duress, you're all the back end stuff that they don't have, you can fulfill day one pretty much.
Yeah, that was one of the things how me and you met when we first talked. It was like, I told you my story, how I literally spent 18 months technically, building out a whole back end company. My wife's here, so I don't even want to talk about how much money it actually cost to build it out. But like, it cost me a lot of money, and I wasn't generating revenue. But I knew that for me to do this properly, that it had to be done. And so it's like, I had to do that, and I created all the systems and every what if, and you know what I'm saying, whatever could happen. Because I'm like, if I'm gonna go out and start acquiring companies, I know how I run businesses. But what if I have somebody that runs a business like this? How do we handle it? Somebody that runs a business like this, how do we handle it? You know what I'm saying? Like if somebody is heavy concentrated on this type of business, how should we handle it?
Yeah.
And especially with me trying to bring businesses into the government sector. Okay, if they don't do any government contracting, here's all the different steps for compliance that I'm gonna have to deal with to be able to get them there. So I took that very seriously to a point where I literally went 18 months, built the entire everything. And I was cool with it because I knew that once I did that, it gives me the confidence now to go out and buy any company.
Wow. For me, it was kind of actually similar. And and it's hard for me to slow down because once I start going down the bus.
We share that in common as well.
I love the grind. I love the hustle. I love breaking things, right? I love like chasing and sprinting really. And it's kind of funny, when we met, I was in 11 states, right?
Yeah.
I'm still in 11 states. And the reason is because I had to consolidate my back ends. I didn't want to collapse on myself, right? And so I needed to make sure that, like you said, the systems and processes worked regardless or irregardless. And in order to fine tune those things, I felt like I was giving the people trusting me a disservice if I would grow any faster.
Yeah.
And it's hard because, of course, I'm chasing top line. I'm chasing profit. I want to grow. I want to expand quick, but at what cost, right? And so I'm happy I did it. It kind of sucks because but I also know enough to know what I don't know, right? If I'm in an area where, hey, this isn't working or scaling the way I thought, or like even like government, I'm not sure if it's the same way, but there's like one of the things I wasn't experiencing, like in Florida, for instance, there's different permitting laws,
Mhm.
right? Different areas, there's different, insurance is done different in California and Florida, right? And I want this copy, paste, repeat, but not every market is copy, paste, repeat,
Mhm.
right? Because every region, every market has its own nuances that you have to navigate through.
Yeah, it's a pain.
Right.
I learned from you about the one of the things I always remember about Florida and the door knocking.
Yeah.
How when we were talking, you talking about the door knocking marketing. It's like in some places you have to literally go get a permit to door knock, and all. It was, and I started, and I was like, "Geez, Louise, this is crazy! Like, you got to learn all these different rules just to do this."
Yep. Yeah. Texas is the same way. South Dakota, some of it's the same way. It's like some of it's by county.
Crazy.
Right? It's not even a state law. It's county by county. So as soon as you step in another area, even if you could be licensed, the laws of engagement just change. You know, it's like Google. It's a moving target. Right?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Cool. So let's talk about like where you're at now, and then kind of like where your focus has been. Why has it focused? Actually, even before then, I find it fascinating, like the kind of niche you found in the government. Can you kind of talk about like the government contracts that you find and how and why they're beneficial and kind of like the long-term lasting revenue? Like once you get a contract, what does that mean for your business? Can you kind of walk through that?
Yeah. So I loved government contracting from day one because the United States federal government is the largest purchaser of goods and services in the world.
Right.
Like, I love our country. We all love our country. But the reality is we don't really produce anything in our country. Right. We are a country of buyers. Right. And so once I really understood that concept, I was like, okay, I get it. And then I started to realize, oh, they really do buy everything. Right. And so then from that point, I had to like focus in on, okay, what am I gonna sell them? What do I want to focus on and really get good at? Kind of like normal business, right? We all have our niches that we do. Nobody's really a jack of all trades, right? And so once I realized that, then I started to go down deeper, which leads to your next question about like, what does that mean revenue-wise for a company? So I specialize in construction and facilities. Now I do dabble in some of the other parts, defense, healthcare, a little IT, but construction and facilities is where I hang my hat because a lot of people don't notice, but the federal government doesn't actually own buildings. The United States federal government actually owns very little property. A lot of the property that they operate out of, they lease. And so they're not building new buildings all the time. They're maintaining and fixing the buildings that they're in. Right. So once I understood that, I was like, okay, cool. And then even with landscape and janitorial, back when we were younger, you would see like city workers that, you know, did things, even like waste management, for example. Right. Like the garbage man used to be a city employee. In most cities now, the garbage man, it's contracted out. I was looking in today, not to get off topic, but I was working with one of my clients today, and we were looking at contracts in Marion County, Florida, in Ocala. Mm-hmm. Waste Management has an 89-year contract. Their contract goes until 2099 for garbage.
That's awesome, though.
And so it leads to that thing. It's like, what does that mean for your company? An 89-year government contract? Like, could you imagine a contract that will literally outlive you? Yeah. Like, I get a contract now at 44 years old, and it's an 89-year contract.
It's generational.
It's generational at that point. Yeah. Like, so when you talk about the ability to get, now, trust me, that's not typical, like, you know, but it is possible. Your average government contract is going to be anywhere between 2 to 5 years. And the reason why the government does multi-year contracts is they want to build continuity. Yeah. So they don't want somebody new coming in every month to do something. So they're like, hey, you're our IT guy, you do our IT for the next 5 years. You're our catering company, you do our catering for the next 5 years. And so once I understood how that process worked and then I understood how to price, I was like, oh, this is amazing. Because the beautiful thing about the government is they want you to make money. Yeah. Why do they want you to make money? So then you can pay taxes. Yeah. Because then they know that you made the money because they gave it to you. Right. And so they want you to make profit. There's a clause in the FAR, which is the Federal Acquisitions Regulation. There's a clause in there that the government cannot put you in business to fail. And so there's a thing called equitable adjustment. So where if you're on a project and you're losing money, you can go to them and say, hey, I didn't make money on this job. And they can do an equitable adjustment to adjust the contract value so you profit. Yeah. So it's like when I learned all these different things, I was like, oh, this is it. This is why would I do anything else?
Can you help my ignorance a little bit?
Of
Because
course.
even though I own roofing companies, I've never swung a hammer, so I'm that guy. I'm sure you are too. I doubt you're out there
Yeah, no, definitely not.
like digging out sewage or underground anything. But do you know the difference between, or can you tell me the difference between like DOT work and like government work, or is it one of the same?
Pretty much the same. So the Department of Transportation is an interesting agency because every state has their own DOT, but they all answer to the federal Department of Transportation. And the reason being is because interstate transit.
Okay.
So they're one of the agencies that is a little funky because depending on where you're doing the work and what it impacts, some roads may be state roads, some roads may be county roads, some roads may be federal roads. And so the DOT will basically just manage all of those and then kind of pass them off to whatever party actually owns them.
Okay.
One of the best agencies to work for because they have their own certification. It's called the DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise cert. And that DBE cert actually transfers to all the other states. So say you set up a company here in Florida and you're doing work for the Florida DOT and you become DBE, you can easily go to Montana and now through a reciprocity process, you can become a Montana DBE.
Really?
And so, yeah, so the DOT is a great agency to work for because it is the only agency that has its own little setup like that. And it's because of the highway systems.
Okay.
And if somebody were to ask me where to make a lot of money in the next 10 years, DOT work is about to be crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then, okay. And then, so what's your focus on now? Because of, I know you've grown a lot. I know we changed, we were just chopping it up before talking about like going into multiple different type of companies. You're talking about drywall, you're talking about a lot of different things. So, so what's your focus on now? And then if you were, and second question I think would be fun. If I'm starting day one in the construction space, looking at government work, what industry would you jump in and why? So that's two different questions.
Yeah. So answer the first one. So for me right now, I still have my underground utility company. Okay. So I still heavily operate in the underground utility space. I own an underground utility company here in Florida. And then I'm also purchasing one now in Las Vegas, Nevada. I love the underground infrastructure space because I don't want to use the word, say it's changing because it's not really changing, but it's constantly progressing as the cities and states change. So here in South Florida, for example, we have hurricanes, right? And hurricanes have been a bad problem. So all of the above ground utility lines are now being buried.
Yeah.
So with the burial of all your telephone lines, power lines, all those things, it impacts your sewer, your water, your storm water. So the underground infrastructure in South Florida and in Florida in general is constantly evolving as things change, as technology changes. Like they were just burying whatever Cat 3 10 years ago.
Right.
Now they got to bury Cat, whatever they're on now, 7 or 8. What I don't even know. They change fiber all the time. So it's like with everything changing, everything's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
The infrastructure in most states is severely outdated.
Yeah.
They still have wood pipes in certain places in the Northeast. Right. You go to places like Brickell, where the sewer mains are 8-inch mains because they were made in the 1940s when Brickell was created. So it was houses on the street. Yeah. Now you've got apartment buildings that have 10,000 people in them each, and they're all still putting stuff down an 8-inch pipe. So it's like
a little primitive on that.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I love that. So I'm in the underground utility space, heavy in that space. And then you talk about like drywall. That goes back to why I got into government construction. So I don't do new builds. I deal more in what they call maintenance and alteration.
Okay.
And so my interior repair companies, I have an interior company here in Florida. I have an interior company in Texas, and then I'm getting an interior company in Las Vegas also. And the reason I do that interior remodel and repair is because a lot of the work is under the simplified acquisitions threshold. So it's under a dollar amount where it doesn't have to be publicly bid.
Okay.
So I'm able to get a lot of work from the government easily because I understand the process. And then it's easy work. You know, you coming in, swapping out ceiling tiles, painting new floors, everybody's happy.
My brother-in-law does something like that in Arizona, and he's talking about if I can do it under certain amounts, he can do it on a credit card or do whatever.
Yep,
and exactly. It's not even, he doesn't even have to get approval.
He doesn't,
just kind of just get it done.
Yeah, so once I learned when I learned the industry, then that's how I learned like where I wanted to play at.
Like that.
And so those are the things that I do, and those are the companies that I focus on.
Gotcha.
I'm moving into more large horizontal construction. So not just underground utilities, but I'll eventually start getting into paving, grading, all of that type of stuff because of the backlog of DOT work.
Right.
So that's the next progression, but that's very costly work to get into. Like to put together a paving company will cost you anywhere, between $6 to $12 million in equipment to put together a paving company. So that's the next evolution for me, is to get into that. And then the reason I'm doing it to kind of round it all out is, like me and you talked about, I'm gearing up to do an exit.
Yeah.
So my dream goal, whatever you want to call it, is a 9-figure exit.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I don't want people to get it misconstrued like, oh, I just want to, do $100 million exit. It's not really the dollar figure for me. It's the ability to do it and show others that look like me, that come from where I come from, that it's possible.
Yeah.
And so that's what gave me the passion to do that. And I'm using, going back to what we were talking about before we got on camera, that's what I'm using my social media influence for now, is to document the process of me building to a 9-figure exit.
I love that.
So then people are able to go, and I can literally, it's going to take me about 4 years, right, to put it all together. But people are able to go to my YouTube channel 4 years from now and look back to today. And they're able to watch the videos, and they're able to have this roadmap of how I did it. So it's not just me saying, oh yeah, I built a, because everybody online now is, I built a $2 billion company, pay me $10,000 and I'll tell you how. Yeah. No, don't pay me a dime. Go to my YouTube channel, go back to this date, and watch every video from then till now, and that's how you do it.
You know what's funny is that you said that one of the things I want to do after this next exit for me, and it's funny, we have the same number. Yeah. They always tell people when they get in business, what's your number?
You have to have something.
Yeah, mine's actually in the 100 mil plus too.
Yeah.
But the thing is that like what I want to do next, I think, is take over companies as a CEO. Don't pay me. Yeah. What I'll do is just pay me on the growth and acquisition. I want to find companies that are decent, but just don't know how to run and get to that next level of scale. And then come in and then shift it, because I'm like, I hate the people, the raw pay me for whatever. I mean, unless you're good. I love the phrase in traction that says, vision without traction is merely hallucination. And I can say rah all day long and say do what I do, but if someone doesn't show me the roadmap, I don't know how to implement it. Yeah. Right. So I think that's beautiful. To show them the road.
I love it because it's giving people, in my opinion, the people that I'm dealing with, I get a great sense of gratitude from talking to some of my students that are going through this process with me and watching it and doing it, and they're like, wow, it actually does work, and I can really do it. So that's what I'm on now. Then to answer your next question, as far as like somebody that's in the construction space, what to get into, like, first of all, I tell every person that does construction, if you're not doing government work, you really need to think about it.
Okay.
Right now, a lot of people don't do it, and a lot of businesses don't do it. I understand why, because their operating systems are set up in a certain way, let's just say, and they do business a certain way, and they don't want to modify for the government. And that's cool, right? But the government work is great because it gives you a sense of security. It's like, okay, we know we have this going on, so now we can take a little bit more risk with our B2B and B2C work.
Yeah.
Because we know we have the solid income coming B2G. But if somebody were to want to get into this right now, 2026, I would honestly say maintenance alteration, so like light interior construction, and then roadway work. Roadway work is where it's at. There is so much.
That seems like a broad term to me. Just give me some of the jobs that come in roadway work.
So paving and grading is big, right? If you can get into stormwater is massive. So basically working on stormwater structures on the side of roads, drainage ditches, retention ponds, all of that type of stuff, because, newsflash people, the ocean's rising, and nobody's figured out how to stop it from rising, right?
Right.
And so eventually, if we don't figure out how to get the water off the street's going to be flooded.
Yeah.
So that type of work, massive.
Is there certain states that you think they should concentrate on that more than others? Because
naturally, your coastal states are going to be big. Yeah. But even your plain states, all that, they have a different set of issues as it relates to water control. Because you go places like Arizona or even like West Texas, where my business is, those places are so dry, when it does rain, they flood.
Yeah, because they can't absorb it.
Because they can't absorb it because the ground's too dry.
Yeah.
So they have a completely other side of problems.
Yeah.
So I think that industry is booming. Now, only downside, like I talked about before, is it is a very costly
To get in.
business to get into. So if someone were to say, listen, I don't have all of that capital to get into that stuff, then I would take them into facilities maintenance. So I take a lot of my people and start them in facilities maintenance, janitorial, landscaping, pest control, pressure washing is a big one. I bid today with one of my students a 5-year pressure washing contract for one of the major VA medical systems. 155,000 square feet of pressure washing.
That sounds like, yeah.
Right. So it's like, and that's a contract. Last time it bid, 2 people bid on it.
Yeah.
Because your average mom and pop pressure washing guy, he ain't got the equipment to pressure wash 155,000 square feet of, sidewalk and building exterior. So those jobs, those are great. And I love that business because even with my student that I looked at for the pressure washing job, she's not a big business. She hasn't been in business a long amount of time, but she can put together a strategy to be able to get that job done effectively.
Right.
And she only has to do it 2 times a year.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
and that's like you said, that's a hub. I mean, as you grow and scale out, you can count on that revenue. Now all of a sudden, when we're worried about being paid, that's the next thing. The government contracts, do they pay on time?
Contrary to popular belief, the government pays very fast.
Okay.
So people don't know that there's a thing called the Prompt Payment Act. So the Prompt Payment Act, now this specifically in federal I'm talking, but the Prompt Payment Act in federal government contracting says that as a small business, you must be paid within 30 days of an approved invoice.
Wow.
And if they don't pay you, you are entitled interest. And the interest amount, you guys can look it up on your own, but the interest amount associated with the Prompt Payment Act currently is about 2 basis points higher than a high yield savings account at most financial institutions.
Love that.
So when the government, I have one student that he had a Coast Guard snow removal contract. And, DHS, everybody's heard about TSA not working and DHS being unfunded.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't pay him for snow removal. Shockingly, the Northeast very rarely has bad winters. This was the worst winter they've had in like 10 years. So he actually did 3 times the amount of snow removal than what the contract could bear. And then they couldn't pay him.
Yeah.
But he's happy because he's getting interest on that. And the people are telling him, like, we're going to get you paid. But don't worry, we're keeping track of the interest. So now because the interest amount, I want to say it's like 4.8 or 5%.
Yeah.
So now when he does get paid, he's making extra money.
Money's working on itself.
The money's working on itself. And he's like, I'm mad. He's like, but this is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
So let's back up a little bit more on government work. Is there certain things you need to have, like I know, like for a lot of construction that we sub out crews?
Mm-hmm.
Is there certain requirements that say you have to have your own W-2 crews? Is it like, can you kind of walk me through some of that process?
Yeah, that's a solid question. So in government contracting, specifically in construction, they have a clause in the FAR that talks about limitations on subcontracting. So the limitations on subcontracting are going to be based on the type of work.
Okay.
So depending on the type of work, it can range anywhere between 15 to 50%. So meaning you have to perform at least 85% or as little as 50%, depending on the type of work. Where it gets real sticky is it's based on designation, meaning if you are a veteran and you get a veteran on contract, you have to subcontract out your percentage that you do sub out. You can only sub it to vets. So you have to sub it to similarly situated people.
Okay.
So that's
vet-owned companies or
vet-owned companies.
Okay.
So that's where it gets tricky, is when you start doing set-aside work.
Gotcha.
You have to be, if you're doing total small business or full and open work, it's not a problem. You can subcontract out pretty freely. But when you start to get into your set-aside work, that's when you really have to pay attention. So there are certain rules and regulations, but when you really understand the business, it's not that hard because it's on labor only.
Yeah.
Right. So it takes out the material costs. So if you got $1 million job, but only 300,000 is labor, like when you start looking at the numbers, it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And then there's a lot of functions that your average subcontractor won't do, which also, to kind of go a little bit deeper, is that's why people hear that government contractors make so much more money. And the reason being is that a $50,000 roof job to a private client is a $300,000 government job. And the reason being is because the government's not paying for the roof. They're paying for everything else that comes along with it. They're paying for the safety, for the project management, the added insurance, the added warranties, blah, 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 blah. And so when you start to add those extras on, when you look at the amount you're subcontracting out, most times you don't have an issue.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So back up the question again. So if you're going to get into government work, you do have to have W-2 employee, at least for the labor part, at a portion of it, up to 85%.
More for, you need to have W-2 employees, but not necessarily for the labor portion.
Okay.
When we say labor, I got to really clear it up. So when I mean labor, I'm talking about like if we're doing roofs, for example, the guys on the roof don't necessarily need to be your employees.
Okay.
You need to have some W-2 employees, and how we typically do it is through safety, project management, and quality control.
Right. And that's all W-2.
And that you would W-2. And that's what most people in the space do, is they set up construction management companies.
Yes.
And they subcontract out the actual performance labor.
The labor.
Yes.
Yeah. Like the swinging of the hammer labor.
Mm-hmm.
But the PMs and the quality control and the people on making sure that the job's done correctly.
Those are typically theirs. Those are typically their W-2 employees.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Cool. Thanks for the clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, this goes so many different ways for me right now. I don't even know where to begin. So if, so once again, you're coming with a guy brand new. So let me ask you, you have, besides you'll get a job, but let's say you had $10,000 to your name, right? Because some small businesses, I don't even think they understand cash flow, right? Yeah. They're always outpacing the avalanche of what they owe. Yeah. But let's say you had $10,000 to your name. What does Kevin do day one?
Man, if I had $10,000 to my name, I'm getting a government contract. I'm going some sort of facilities contracts. So I'm going landscaping, janitorial. I would even do street sweeping.
Okay.
Right? I would go some sort of facilities maintenance type light construction projects that I could do with myself, maybe one or two guys, and very minimal equipment. The good thing about government contracts is government contracts are they are a form of legal tender. Yeah. So you can take a government contract and you can leverage it for money towards equipment, different things like that. The SBA has a completely separate set of loan products that are just for government contractors that the public typically don't even know about. So if a guy came and he's got like 10 grand, I'll be like, hey, let's go find you a landscaping contract. Let's go to, Kubota, John Deere, somebody to get you a riding mower on some sort of lease program, connected to this contract, and then start that way. That would be the 100% easiest way, or street sweeping, something like that. And then progress from there.
Love that. So now all of a sudden, you're in this growth. So what kind of companies do you look for to acquire? Like you were saying, you weren't trying to find duress. I know they're just coming at you in duress now, but and those are probably better because you get them pennies on the dollar, right? But so if you're looking for an ideal customer to acquire or partner or do whatever, what are some of the things you look for, and what are what are the red flags, and two, what are what wets the palate, so to speak, right?
Yeah. So right now I'm looking for construction or facilities companies. I strategically buy in certain markets because I'm chasing the government. Yeah. So I'm all throughout the South, Southeast and Southwest. So I don't just stay Southeast. So primarily if I'm buying something now, I'm buying it from, North Carolina down and straight across all the way into Arizona. I'm not going into California. So
is it because of the laws there?
It's just too, I tell people all the time, if you work in California, stay in California. Yeah. If you don't work in California, don't take it behind the California.
It's funny you say that. I talked to a corporate law attorney, and when I do talk to corporate structure, I almost have to find someone specifically in California to 100%. Talk differently. Everywhere else in the U.S. is almost the same, with the exception of California as its own little country. As far as how you work, laws, different stipulations, everyone's so sue happy, the protections, licensing, everything is just so different there.
What makes it difficult for us is because one of the beautiful things about doing work for the federal government is they're pretty much standardized literally across the world. Yeah. But then what happens is you set your company up to do business with the federal government across the world, and then you go do a job in California, and now you're held to all of their rules, and the government's like, well, you gave us this pricing like this. Cause like, for example, if you get a GSA schedule, your GSA schedule is going to stretch across the world.
Yeah.
Now you go get a job in California, they're paying you off your schedule price, and now you're losing money because of everything else you got to deal with in California. Right? It's just not worth it. But so I'm primarily through the South. Why? Because land, and so that's where the government has a lot of facilities because they can get access to land. There are some states in the throughout the North where we will operate. Of course, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Ohio is a massive government state. People don't know that. Ohio is probably like, I think, number 4, number 5 in government spending. Okay. They have a lot of hidden stuff in Ohio. Indiana also. There's a missile base in Indiana. And so that's pretty much where I go. Then when it comes to actually buying, I have call it 10-10-10 rule. 10 years in business, 10 employees, and at least 10% EBITDA. Those are the 3 things that I'm looking for. If I don't see those 3, I automatically go to the next one.
So you look for longevity.
Yeah, because when you're dealing with the government, that's what they want to see.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Because the government, it's very hard. That's why one of the reasons why I started buying so much as opposed to building. Because the government want to work with somebody stable. They want to see what you got going on.
That's an interesting concept because I've always been reluctant to open up under a different brand. Like, and the good thing in Arizona, I have a construction company that's 10 years, but most of it is just newer companies because it's easier to start than acquire, like to worry about processes and systems. But if you're just buying a name, and you're saying if I want to get into government, maybe buy Chuck in a truck guy that's tired of swinging a hammer that has 10, 12, 15 years, but just done with the business and I'm pretty much just buying the name at that point.
And that's pretty much what we go after. And the reason being is we're buying customer base and we're buying that past performance. And so we take that customer base and that past performance, and then we basically just let the customers know, hey, it's the same game. It's just the 2026 version.
Yeah. So when you do that, then are you, because obviously if they're like mom and pop or they're dealing with residential, you're going to still continue the residential business, but you're really just expanding now into government work. Right?
So like we were talking about my roofing company. We bought a roofing company last year in Central Florida, and it was strictly storm chasing.
Yeah.
Right. But we got a good deal on it, so we saw the potential to expand. The Orlando market is great for government work. Orlando Airport is going through an expansion. Tampa Airport is going through an expansion. Kennedy Space Center is transferring. Then you got the Space Force Base. So there's so much activity in Central Florida. So we knew that we could expand. Right. And so we look for companies that have that potential for growth and expansion into the government markets.
Love that.
Because for the most part, any business model can transition to the government unless somebody's just completely running their business so just bad.
Right.
But then you wouldn't buy it anyway.
Right. So when you buy these companies and you talk about the 10% EBITDA, do the government look at past financial historics, or is that more for you? Just
that's more for us.
More of a stable company.
Yeah, more of a stable company.
And knowing that with your systems and processes, you'll make that 10%, 20% EBITDA or whatnot, because you don't have the stress of paying yourself or probably the financials and the forensics when you get down to it.
Yeah.
Probably the chart of accounts and all that's probably whacked out anyway.
Yeah, and then it because of how I created the operating company and the whole management structure, with me strategically buying with certain areas, certain work lines, is making it better for me because what I'm working on now, my next thing is I'm going to maximize my bond potential. Yeah. Maximizing my bonding ability is going to allow me to bid the massive government contracts. Right. So now I'm able to bid those 12-year, $2 billion construction contracts. Right. Once I get my bonding up. If I was to try to build my bonding from the ground up on my own, it would take me probably 10, 15 years to be able to have a $100 million single limit. Yeah. But now if I combine 10 different companies, could put all of those financials together, decrease all of their operational expenses, because now I don't need 10 CEOs, 10 CFOs, 10 general managers, right? Yeah. So I consolidate into one C-suite. Now that 10% EBITDA is 30% EBITDA of all of the entities because I got rid of all that. But now that free cash flow, when it goes into bonding, now it's like, whoa, you got, you're doing $30 million a year at a, 25% EBITDA. Okay, we're going to give you 10 times your EBITDA for bonding. Boom, that's a $70 million bond line right there.
Right. And so when you look at bonding, when I think of bonding, I like, for me, for some of the smaller DOT jobs or smaller stuff that I've done, I just personally do it myself because
we talked about that before.
Yeah,
Yep,
because I don't want to pay someone else
Yep.
the 5%, 7%, whatever they're going to charge for the bonding.
Yep.
So when you bond, not to geek out too much, but are you personally bonding it, or are you like using third-party companies?
So on the smaller ones, we talked about this too. We will do that. We will put up the bond ourselves on the smaller stuff just because it's easier.
Yeah,
it's not worth spending the money on. But to get bigger, we have to.
You have to leverage.
You have to. The good thing about it is, with the government, if you're doing federal work, depending on the type of contract, your bond cost is 100% reimbursable.
Right.
So that's the good thing. And on those larger contracts that I'm targeting, which are your IDIQs, which are indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, the way you actually bid those is it's based on your below the line costs. So your above the line hard costs, that doesn't come into factor. So what you're actually bidding is your overhead, your profit, your bonding, and insurance. So when they send you a bid form, literally they ask for those 4 numbers: what's your overhead, profit, bond, and insurance. Yeah. And you put your rates, and then that's how they decide who they want to award to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow, man, this is a water hose for me, man. I love it. I'm probably the only one geeking out. Hopefully my audience likes it as much as I do. So let's dumb it down, or let's take it back a little bit more. I want to talk about kind of because obviously you don't come from this, right? Like most people that I feel that are self-made. I mean, you've pioneered some stuff, and you've trudged the road to get to where you are today and where you're headed. Yeah. So I love that kind of stuff. Can you talk about maybe some of these pain points that you can talk about in life where you didn't know if you were going to make it? You didn't know, like I use the same analogy all the time, like 10,000 in the bank, 200,000 in bills to pay type of stuff, right? Like, can you kind of walk me through those defining moments? Let's go to last week, but let's talk about early on. Like early on in your career, like these kind of things you wish you knew that you just had to get these like kick in the teeth to learn, right? Because that's how we learn. We don't learn through our successes. We learn through our failures. Yeah,
I don't come from money, right? But I'm blessed that I come from families on both sides, my mother and my father's side. I come from entrepreneurs.
Right.
So that's all. It sounds crazy, but nobody in my family has ever had a job.
Right.
Like on my mother's side, my grandfather owned a landscaping company here in South Florida. And this was in the 60s and 70s. Like, he was one of the first large black-owned companies. Like, he used to go to Sunny Isles, Aventura Miami Beach, and the police would have to escort him out because if he was still cutting past when the sun went over the trees, like, he had to get escorted out of Sunny Isles.
I forget that even exists sometimes.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that long ago.
Especially in the South, it sometimes still exists.
Yeah, so I would spend some days, like, with my grandfather cutting grass, right? Because all he did was commercial. He didn't do residential. He did big commercial accounts. Right. Then on my dad's side, my dad's father, he was a dentist in London. Okay. And when they came to America, just the typical immigrant story, like they don't care about your stuff when you come to America. Yeah. So he couldn't be a dentist in America unless he went back to dental school. So he opened not a dental hygienic, but like a prosthetics lab. Okay. So he made dentures and all of that. Right. So like all I've known is that. And then my father, he opened an aircraft maintenance shop when he got out of the military. My mom had a flower shop. So all I've known is entrepreneurship. So, but the downside to that is what I didn't learn was how to properly grow and scale.
Right.
Because
it's just more just the grind. You work hard, do what you
understand
make money,
see?
But you're capped.
You're capped. So yeah. I knew the grind. And so sometimes I think about it and it's like a gift and curse. Like it's a gift because it gave me the motivation. Oh no, I know I can have my own business because everybody has their own business. Right. So I know it's possible. But then when I started to grow in business and get to points where I couldn't go to my dad for advice because he had never crossed a certain threshold in business. So he's like, shit, son, I don't know. Let me hold some money. So now I'm like, okay, so what do I do? So that was some of the early stuff.
So let's pause that for a second. Because this is one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast. And I had the same kind of thing. I remember I use this a lot. I remember I made my first $1 million month in EBITDA and I thought I arrived. Yeah. The problem is no one in my circle had. Right. Not even that. Yeah. I don't even know people that made $1 million a year, let alone in a month. And I noticed that for me, as I kept growing and scaling, the sphere of influencers or the sphere of mentors kind of shrunk around me. I had to find new circles.
Yep.
So let's talk about that, right? Because you don't, how do you even know to ask the questions like, hey, how do you scale past this? Or realizing a dip in EBITDA is necessary to get that next level of growth, right? Because that's like stuff for a business owner or a small business owner, that's scary, right? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, I'm losing money, and you run in it like your own personal checking account, but you don't realize that that's normal mm-hmm. for that phase of growth.
It was all of that you're saying is, listen, when I tell you, listen, all of that, because for me, it was especially tough because like that circle of influence, it does close. Yeah. So it's then like, who can you look to ask these questions, right. You know, because you don't have those people.
Iron sharpens iron, but when there's no iron around, where you go?
Where you go. And that's the thing is like, and it was especially tough for me because of the type of business that I chose to get into.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because had I went and been like some other people and opened a restaurant or a tire shop or had a normal business, right. then I probably would have had people that I could have went to and asked for advice.
Yeah.
But because I went into government contracting, like who do I talk about? Who can I ask? I don't have anybody. And then, you know, crazy enough, like I've always looked the way I look. I've always had tattoos, been a big dude. And I started in government contracting. I think 2009 is when I opened my business.
Yeah.
28 years old.
Yeah.
So my peers in government contracting are 50-something-year-old men because that's your average government contractor. Because your typical government contractor is somebody who served in the military, worked in the government, then decided to start their own business.
Right.
So I'm 28, 29 years old trying to figure this thing out. And they're looking at me like, son, what are you doing here?
Yeah. You come from humble beginnings, parents opening up their own small businesses, athlete. Now what?
Now what? And so I'm like, okay, so when you talk about like the pain points and all those different things, that was really tough for me. That growth era was especially tough because I didn't know how to do certain things.
Yeah.
Or even when you talk about having, you know, $1 million months and things like that, like people don't understand the other side of that. Like
$1 million loss.
Yeah, like that's a possibility. And, you know, I tell people all the time, I have students come to me and say, oh, I want to make $1 million. I'm like, okay, well, do you have 800,000? They're like, no. I'm like, well, you're not going to make $1 million. Yeah. Because it takes money to make money.
Right.
So it's like, well, how do you get the money that it takes? Yeah. How do you handle the things that come with that?
Yeah.
How do you deal with not being home? How do you deal with all the different stuff that comes with being able to do this at a high level?
I think you mentioned a lot of it early on. So I think what you said and what I've heard consistently, my first interview was with a guy that was an immigrant, and he talked about that grind. And you're an athlete,
yeah.
You know, and you understand the grind of that.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, and I always love hiring 2 or 3 types of people. One, athletes, because I know somewhere between 14 and 18, they have
structure,
discipline,
yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
People that come from small business owners, not that they've done it, but they understand the ups and downs of what small business looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Or 3, I hate to say this, people with troubled past, because those are the people that are hungry.
Yep.
And, you know, and like you just said, the sacrifice, the balance, there is no balance, right? It's that grind it's going to take to get to that.
Yeah.
And to get that 800,000 in the bank, to save, to the discipline, hey, anything that I got to do to make this happen. That's really early business for most people.
People talk about like work-life balance. Work-life balance only exists for people that have 9 to 5s.
Yeah.
When you are an entrepreneur, there's no work-life balance. Yeah. It's just work, and then life happens within the balances of work.
Yeah.
Like, and so it's understanding that. Yeah. And then like you were just saying, when you had that $1 million month, like who you gonna go talk to?
Yeah.
So it's like now when I'm working and doing all those things, who can I relate to? Yeah. At 28, 29 years old when I started my business, who am I gonna relate to?
Especially other 28 and 29-year-olds. You're not.
I'm not.
And they're partying, they're chasing,
and then
they're getting out of college, maybe starting their 9 to 5, getting their engineering
because job. I had two distinct sets of friends at 28, 29 years old. So I had my friends that I grew up with as a, you know, little kid that were, a lot of them went out of college and they got government jobs. So they were police officers, firefighters, all those things, right? Yeah. So I can't talk to them about my problems because they're not listening. Then I have another distinct set of friends, which are my athlete friends. And a lot of them at 28, 29, they're either hitting their prime in sports or getting out of sports. So now they're calling me like, bro, I need a job. I don't know what to do now. Right? So I can't talk to them. You know what I'm saying? So I have no peer group to talk to at that point. Yeah. Like that stage of life was probably, I mean, every stage of life is the hardest at its time, right? But that was the hardest at its time. The stage that I kind of just came out of, or even so much still kind of in, is that transitioning from a normal entrepreneur to now that 8-9 figure entrepreneur. That's a whole nother, people don't understand. Like when you go from going from 6 figures to 7 figures is cool, but you're still like,
you can do that through hustle.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so it's kind of like you can still, when you get like to 7 figures from 6 figures, like you could still kind of relate and talk to people at a certain level. Right. Now you can't deal with everybody, but some people you can still, when you go to 8 figures and you're tracking to try to get to 9 figures, the pool of individuals that you can talk to is very, 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 very small. And I'm sure you know this, like you deal with it just like I do. Like the pool of people that you can even text and be like, hey bro, how's your day going? And then get that long text back of how their day is actually going. Yeah. Like it's a very, very small group of people, bro. Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. And that phase is very difficult.
Yeah. Even like I had one company, like last year I said we did like 18 million in top line, but we had minus 12,000 in EBITDA. Right. And it's like, and because we had non-payments and this other stuff and like whatever. And I got multiple companies, right? I'm at 13. I was at 18 last year. I consolidated down to 10, started 3 more. Because if it's not making money, I don't want to play with. But the thing about it is that's business too, right? Yeah. Like people could talk about these crazy growth models, but then like, that's what I love about the government job stuff that you're talking about. Cause I had like last year, I had so many people go out of business, people stiffing us with 7-digit bills. Right. And what do you do then?
What do you do?
Yeah. I mean, you still got to pay your vendors, still got to pay your employees, still got to pay your taxes, still got to, all these things that you got to do to keep the doors open. Are you leveraged enough, or do you have the right cash flow situation? Are you running your business like a personal checking account, or are you running it like a business?
That's something I had to learn, and to some extent still learn day by day. Yeah. It's like how to properly leverage. Yeah. Like, because that's something that I don't think a lot of people really talk about, is how to properly leverage yourself and what is a good level of leverage in your business, right? That's something that if you ask one person, it's one thing. You ask somebody else, it's something different.
I think it's risk. I think it's pain risk tolerance. I think you ask a 20-something-year-old, it'd be
there's going to be one thing different. You see what I'm saying? So it's like that's something I struggle. Okay, and then as I scale now, and it's crazy to me to even think, when I think like, last year we bought 4 companies, right? This year I'll probably buy 10. So it's like, okay, now people ask me all the time, how much money make? Bro, I don't even know at this point, because I'm buying these companies and and then I sit down, and when I actually look, I'm like, holy shit. Okay, all right, what do we do now? Right? So it's like, I could talk about the pains of this shit for hours, bro.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think it's one of the things I do with all my companies is I do what's called an org chart check every quarter. Mm-hmm. Because like you said, like when you're at 3 million, 5 million, it's not the same org chart at 25. It's not the same org chart at 50, right? It's this constant evolution of making sure back-end systems and operations are funding it correctly, or feeding it correctly, or being able to do processes. So let me talk about that. With that kind of acquisition model, how often do you have to relook at the org and structure?
Because this is going to sound crazy, but on my computer, I keep a Google Chrome screen open, and the tabs on that screen are work in progress, org chart, and workflows. Yeah. And it stays open consistently. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll be doing something, I'll consistently open it and look at it, and they're live documents. So my team's constantly, and I'm constantly looking at it. It literally stays open, and it never closes. That one, if somebody were to close that Google Chrome, I'd probably cry, because I have to go open everything up again. Yeah. But I'm constantly looking at that, because where I'm at now, my job within my companies is I'm sourcing my acquisitions. I'm actually hiring an acquisition manager this month and building an entire acquisition team. Yeah. Because I didn't talk about this, but not only do I buy for myself, but I also partner with my students and buy for them. And then we manage them through our management company.
I love that.
But so I'm constantly looking at my org chart saying, okay, where are we at today? What deals do I have in the pipeline for us as a company? And then what C-suite staff am I potentially keeping from those? Where are they going to fit within the chart? Yeah. And then what do I need to bring in to augment everything to make it work? And then I'm looking, okay, now I've got this company that does this. What am I missing?
Yeah. So I call it open seats. Like, where am I missing?
Yep. So now I'm like, okay, what am I missing? So now I'm taking that, because I'm still doing sourcing of acquisitions. So then now I'm looking for companies to fill those gaps.
Yeah.
So it's like playing this constant, almost like a chess match with myself of moving the different pieces, but staying 3 moves ahead.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put somebody in a position today that an acquisition that I'm doing now, when it closes in 9 months, now I got to rethink their position because now they're obsolete.
Yeah.
So that's a tough, and that's another thing. Like, who the hell I'm gonna learn that from?
Yeah.
I ain't got nobody that can teach me that.
I love that stuff. Yeah, I geek out on the same thing. Actually, it's kind of funny you even say that because like I always talk about the vacuum effect when somebody moves on. Like when one of my saving graces that happened to us like this last year with the downsizing of businesses, I was able to save everyone but one person. So for me, that's actually like a blessing. Like what you're talking about, able to reallocate them to different companies and do whatever.
And that's what I'm doing now is really looking at them. And that's also one of the strategies that I use when I acquire. Like we talked about my criteria is I'm looking at revenue and EBITDA, all that matters. But because of what I'm trying to build, I'm looking at management staff a lot harder. Yeah. That was a lesson that I learned last year the hard way.
Yeah.
Was I acquired a company that, funny enough, the owner, all the people that the owner told me would quit are the ones that stayed and everyone else left.
That's weird. He had no pulse.
Zero. Literally had zero pulse on his company. The man sat there and we went down the org chart, and literally all the ones that he told me, oh, he's not going to last 6 months. Oh, this one here, he's going to leave you. This one here, all the ones he told me will quit are the ones that are still there. The ones that I got one working with me now that I never forget the day. One of the main guys who was GM of one division, right? He was literally running an entire division. He was running a $5 million division in this company. They swore he was the best thing since sliced bread. They had another guy who was GM of another division. His division wasn't doing as much revenue, so they said he's horrible.
Yeah.
So I never forget, I went there and I called them both in, and this is the first time I really talked to them all together.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to them, and I'm like, oh, they got it all wrong. But I know this because like we do this.
Yeah.
And I try to tell them out there, like, no, I do this for a living. So I understand. So I'm sitting here listening to them talk, and then I'm asking them the right questions. Yeah. And I'm like, holy shit, they got it all wrong. Yeah. And I had to tell the one dude, I said, bro, I ain't gonna lie to you. I said, I came here today to fire you. I was like, but I'm gonna keep you based on this conversation.
Right. And you can't make it up you don't know what you don't know. And if you ask the right questions, you can't fake the answer.
That's the thing is like the old owner he didn't know, but like us, we know the right questions to ask to really grow business. So I'm sitting there and I never forget it was a Friday too, because I was gonna fire him on Friday. I swear. Of course. So it was Friday afternoon, and we stayed in the office till like 6, 7 o'clock, and I'm just talking to him, and I'm like, holy shit, he had it wrong.
Wow, I love that.
And I told you, I said, bro, I literally was gonna fire you right now.
Yeah.
I was like, but I'm not gonna fire you based on this. So I pulled it and I changed the org chart and put him back in it with different roles. No more than 60 days later, the other guy quit.
Yeah.
So now I got the one guy who they told me fire, who was making less money, is now doing the job of both of them.
Yeah.
And he'll make me more money this year than the other dude made in 3 years.
Awesome, man. I love that story. Well, I think we're about close to wrap up, man. But I guess the two last things I'd like to talk about. If you were going to talk to a young entrepreneur, what's the biggest, if you were going to say like a life lesson, what would be your pearl of wisdom that you would say, hey, day one, do this. And then secondly, I want you to be able to do a shameless plug and let people know how to find you and like how do they link up with your socials? Yeah. So if I was going to talk to an entrepreneur that's trying to do it today, I live by this phrase and we laugh about it, but you hear people say the YOLO, you only live once. Uh-huh. But the reality is you only die once. As an entrepreneur, you have a chance every day to make a difference, and you live every day. You only die once. So every day that you have, get up, get out there and just go make it happen. Yeah. Like I tell my guys every day, get up at the same time, put your boots on and walk out the door. Yeah. So it's going to happen as long as you put your boots on and walk out the door. Right. Like just get out there and make it happen. Don't listen to what nobody says. The path that God's given you to walk, that's your path. Somebody else not going to understand it. Run your race, walk your path, do your thing, and you only die once. You live every day to its fullest. Love that. And then, you can find me, Government Cheese, on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. And like I say all the time, we laugh about it, but when it comes to government contracting, literally pick my brain. Like send me messages on social media. Let's talk about what things are going on. Let me try to help you. And then I got a couple events
I got an event I'm doing this weekend in Scottsdale, so you guys will miss that. But I got a 90-day group mentorship that's going to be kicking off first week in July 6th. And I'm doing that strategically in July because the fourth quarter is July, August, and September.
Right.
So if you guys are interested in getting involved in government contracting, definitely look out for that. So July, August, September, we're doing a 90-day group class. It's going to be crazy. And then I need to invite you out because December, we are having our last event of the year in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. So,
nice.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be in Costa Rica, come back in July. And for those of you guys watching, all of the socials will be on the links on the bottom of the podcast.
Cool.
So we'll be able to back link to and find this gentleman, man. Well, thanks, brother. I appreciate your time, your energy, man. You're a true beast in the industry, man, for real. I'm proud of what you've done. I'm jealous, but I'm happy it's you.
I appreciate you, bro. I appreciate it. Thank you again.
Stay blessed.
All right, cool.
This episode of Pain Points is brought to you by Ringba. If your business relies on phone calls, you need to be working with them. Their technology will help you get the most money out of your marketing campaigns. Their call exchange, Ringba X, can deliver inbounds on demand to help grow your customer base. Now, I want to be transparent. Ringba and Adam did pay me to deliver that message, but I'm also a customer, and I've watched them help dozens of companies become more successful over the years. So if you sell a product or service over the phone, I guarantee a moment with their team will be worth it. Are you stuck in that $3 to $10 million year-over-year revenue? Roofs in a Box is your all-in-one growth partner for modern construction companies. They combine AI, virtual staffing, and CRM solutions to help streamline operations. Replace your high fixed overhead with cost-effective systems and support. They empower you to run a smarter, leaner business, freeing up capital where it matters most. Mention this ad to save 10% on your next Roofs in a Box purchase.